Hi, folks. We are back in the Cobb TV studio with Cobb Commission Chairman Mike Boyce for his weekly talk today. And we were just talking, even before the camera started rolling, about the event Monday celebrating the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah, there are not enough accolades to describe that program on Monday. Between the performers, the organization, Fred Blankenship, I told him after the program, he needs to give up his daytime job. He was just an extraordinary MC that day. He hit every single note perfectly, keeping the event moving. And there was one small hiccup there, and he just covered that so nicely. So I was talking to Deanne Bonner yesterday. She's my new appointment to the Atlanta Regional Commission. And you can see this part of her ceremony yesterday here on the screen. But she said that wherever she went after Monday, people were just telling her how great the program was. So I hope that this encourages people to, once again, next year when we do it, and to come and see something that reflects the talent we have in this community. It was just terrific. And there are a couple times I'm still laughing over what Fred did there.
So. And anybody who wants to see it, it'll be on our YouTube channel. We'll put the link up there as well, and it's kind of rotating on our Cobb TV channels as well. So,
all right, well,
all 2 hours and I think 30 minutes of the program.
Well, there are some there. There was one performer early in the programs. She sang "Rise Up."
Oh yeah.
Boy, I tell you, I almost cried. It was that she sung it so beautifully, but the message was powerful. So again, it's just another reflection of Cobb County. That we have so many terrific people here who took the time. Just think of all the effort that went into doing that event. And to get it, when people don't realize that when things go smoothly, that's a reflection of how much work goes into it to make it go smoothly. Because I can guarantee you if it didn't go smoothly, that would be the highlight of the program. But this one here, just sit there, grab something to relax with, and then watch some really talented performers, and then watch Fred at one of his premier moments in life.
Yeah. Well, as we transition, you talk about things running smoothly to things where there's been some bumps in the road, talking about the housing authority.
Sure,
Cobb
right.
County has a housing authority. Marietta has a housing authority. And some of the things that they've been doing have brought some attention in the county. Sure. But you've been looking over some of the stats and some of what they've been doing.
Sure. It's interesting history, and I don't want to go into it here because, we only have 15 minutes. But the bottom line is that a number of years ago, the Marietta Housing Authority was established, was allowed to come into play by the state legislature, and then the city of Marietta established its housing authority, and then through history, the county allowed them to do things inside the county too. And this is a great example of two sides with great arguments, trying to find the middle ground. Because what happened a couple months ago is that the Marietta Housing Authority goes out and they find developers that want to build homes that provide subsidized products for certain members of the community. It can be seniors, it can be people that are low income, and in order to qualify for a tax credit, a 9% tax credit, to build these houses and homes, the board has to approve that they met all the criteria to qualify for the tax credit. Well, I still believe that what we voted on a couple months ago had nothing to do with the tax credit. There was the message given that the Marietta Housing Authority was not going to be allowed to build this phase 2 of the senior living home, subsidized senior living homes down on Old Villa Rica Road. And in fact, that's not the message at all. The Marietta Housing Authority could still build those homes. They just wouldn't qualify for the tax credit because we didn't approve that. But that gets lost in the shuffle. So I'm being asked to come down to the state capitol next month and testify in front of Representative Wilkerson's committee about the Marietta Housing Authority. Now I want to make it very clear here. This county does not appoint members to that board. The city of Marietta is responsible for appointing members to that board. And the fact that they're allowed to operate inside Cobb County is a story for another day. But the bottom line here is that we have people who live in that part of the county that believe that having that kind of housing is too dense. And that's a legitimate argument. I don't argue with that at all. I think they got a good reason to make sure that the character of their neighborhood is produced. On the other hand, we have a waiting list of over 2,000 seniors in Cobb County who need subsidized homes of some kind. And you're going to see in the chart here what the Area Housing Authority has done. So these aren't numbers that I'm making up. This chart reflects all the programs that they do here in Cobb County to help not just seniors, but also low-income housing. And they have a long history of doing that. So on one hand, we have people trying to provide homes for people who need subsidized programs. On the other hand, we have a community that would prefer not to have these kind of homes built in their neighborhood because it doesn't reflect the nature of their character, of their community. And this is where, government comes into play, and you have to stand up and be counted, because it's our responsibility as elected official to make the hard calls. But the calls are a little bit easier to make if you can find middle ground. And it's harder to find middle ground when people take a stand that doesn't reflect the overall picture. So we got to be very careful here, because there might be some who will see the message that they simply don't want any kind of subsidized housing in a certain part of the community, and they won't get it. So those people who need the homes down there will never be able to be eligible for it because they won't be built. And is that the message you want to send to people who need subsidized housing in this county? That it's there for you, but your neighbors don't want you to build it, so you're not going to have it, okay? And on the other hand, you have the people that can build these programs deciding there's plenty of other opportunities here in the county where I can take my programs that they'll be received by the community without all the uproar that happened with the program in December. So I'm not sure what the answer is right now, but I'll tell you where Mike Boyce is. It doesn't do us any good to have people out there who need homes and we can't provide homes for them, even though we know we can do that. We have to find some way to everybody, work together to reach on some reasonable compromise where you win some, they win some, but more importantly, the real winners here are people who need subsidized housing because of their circumstances in life, put them in that situation. And I just want to reiterate one thing. There's that old expression, there but for the grace of God. I hope nobody watching this film thinks that they're going to be immune from ever being put in those circumstances. Because as we saw during the recession in 2008, 9, and 10, there were people, who had great education, did everything right, and woke up one day with a pink slip. All right, and there they are, living in a home that they can't afford because neither party in that home no longer has a job. We have to be, very compassionate and sympathetic to people who got into these situations because, I know a lot of stories that I've come across in my time working with the homeless, where they came to Atlanta, they came to Cobb County thinking they were going to find some opportunity. The opportunity wasn't there, and they found themselves living in a car. And these are people like veterans, who have a reputable background. They're good, decent people, and we have to work together to find a way to make this work.
So when you go to the Capitol, what's going to be the topic of that committee meeting?
Well, I think they're looking to see one of the things that they want us to do is that they want us, certainly Representative Wilkerson and some of his constituents, want us to require the Area Housing Authority to go through the zoning process before they build a development. All right, and there's two parties. One says that the law says they don't have to do that, and another side says yes, they do. And what's made it complicated is that the county has a Cobb County Housing Authority, all right? So that was formed after the Area Housing Authority. Matter of fact, way after the Area Housing Authority. And they've chosen to go that route. So on one hand, you have one authority saying, yes, we're going to make them go through zoning. Another one saying we don't have to go through zoning, but we have put requirements on the Area Housing Authority to do everything but make them go through zoning, to make sure that people are properly notified about their community, about impact on their community. So this is one of those issues here where I don't have the answer right now, but it's out there burbling, and I think eventually this will come to the board. I did tell Commissioner Representative Wilkerson that we have a process here. If he really believes that the county should impose zoning requirements upon the Area Housing Authority before they can work in unincorporated Cobb County, then the process is to go find a commissioner to bring that forward as an agenda item. I would second that item as an agenda item. Doesn't mean I would support it or oppose it. I would simply allow it to come brought forward for discussion and then let the full board decide whether or not they would want to make that a requirement upon the Marietta Housing Authority. But remember, we might be open to litigation because the Housing Authority believes that the law says that they're exempt from it, then we may be sued. So, we got to be very, very careful here about trying to get ourselves too deeply into a hole we can't get out of.
And one thing we talked about before is, even though the Marietta Housing Authority, you already pointed out that nobody's appointed from the county to that authority,
Right.
but we can still help with communication about what they're doing, how to
Sure.
affect certain areas in the county, and both sides, I think, have agreed to do just that.
Yes, and we had, as you know, you were at a meeting where we sat down with Representative Wilkerson, the Marietta Housing Authority, the Cobb County Housing Authority. We had what I believe, we had the famous frank discussion about the topics, and we agreed on a lot of that. But we couldn't, again, because we have no authority over the Marietta Housing Authority, I couldn't sit over there and tell the MHA, hey, Mr. Waldrop, you have to do this in order to work in the county. No, that doesn't work that way. This isn't a unilateral decision. This has to be a board-driven action and policy. And I've explained to the representative how that happens in this county. And if he goes through that process, we'll see what happens. He may get some support from the board. He may not. I don't know. But the only way to find out is to bring it forward as an agenda item.
Right. Looking forward to our next meeting Tuesday night. I was looking over the agenda. Could be a long one. We've got some public hearings.
Right.
And a big matter for public safety in this county, an implementation of step and grade for
Right.
them. And you recently got to break bread with some firefighters. I imagine that may have been part of the conversation.
It was more than just bread. As you know, I've been doing ride-alongs now since I came in office. And for some reason, I don't know why I didn't think this through, but every precinct, there's 5 precincts, police precincts in the county, and everyone has a fire station, co-located with it. And so I'd always go do the ride-alongs, but I never thought about coming a little bit earlier and sitting down and having, food, dinner with the firemen. So I've been doing that now over the last 3 or 4 months, trying to explain to them where we are with regard to increased compensation and benefits for them. And it's been, I think the more you talk to the people that are important in your lives, the more understanding you have. Doesn't mean you always agree on everything, but now they see where you're coming from. And I've been saying from day one here, one of the things that's been very curious to me is that sometimes what we do here at the board level doesn't filter all the way down to the troop level, as I call it. And I'm not just talking about public safety. I'm talking about all levels of government here, which is why sometimes I do videos on Cobb to let people know directly what it is we're doing up here and why we're doing it. The step and grade, I made it very clear, is a very important action by the board. The public safety, their concern has always been both compensation but also being appreciated by the board for all the actions that they do. And we need to reestablish that trust with public safety. And it started during the recession when we furloughed public safety people. I'm not going to comment on a previous board. I will say, though, that furlough left a really bad taste that is still there on the part of many of our public safety people. They're not sure that if we get into a bigger, similar situation in the future, that we wouldn't do that again. And I'm here to tell you right now that, barring that we actually run out of money, the last dime we spend in this county would be on public safety. All right, because we got to keep them around. I've always said, if people don't feel safe, then you don't have an environment where people are going to invest, work, and live, play, and pursue their dreams. So the step and grade here is a pay scale that reflects over future years what they would make every year. And the question right now is going to be, would that pay increase every year be 1%? Would it be 2%? Would it be 3%? What percent would it be? And here's the real answer. It depends on what the revenue stream looks like for the county. It doesn't do me any good to sit here and promise a public safety official I'm going to give you X percent every year, and then I run out of money and I have to go back, and raise the millage rate. All right. I'm not saying that future millage rates are out of the question. Nobody that's responsible would ever say that because circumstances change. But I will say here is that we have to find a way to implement something where now they know that we are committed to a process to increasing their compensation every single year a certain degree based on budgetary realities and subject to the approval of the board. Okay? There's no way this board can commit a future board to an action, all right? Because what this board can do, a future board can undo. And it creates a false expectation that if this board says that for the next X number of years we're going to be doing this, and then the board completely changes the next year, the two or three people who come on the board or whatever that number is saying, well, I didn't vote for that, so I'm not going to support that. And then we go right back to where we were before, saying, see, you misled us. We want to get out of that kind of narrative. We want to do things that are responsible, and my commitment is that if the revenue stream is there, and I see no reason it wouldn't be. The tax digest has been really incredible the last few years, and I don't see it changing much in the future for a while. We're going to be able to fund that step and grade, but we need to have a frank, open discussion that these are the limitations on that commitment. Our commitment to you is yes, we're going to fund it. What it looks like is what we'll talk about at the agenda prep on Monday and at the board meeting on Tuesday, and we'll get public input when we have the speaker's comments, and from there we'll go forward. But we need to do this step. This is the final element of the foundation where I believe we're going to create a sense of the board being committed to once again saying not only is public safety our number one priority, it is our most important priority, and we're going to put some money against that to show you that we really mean that.
Well, that meeting Tuesday night, as all meetings, will be streamed live on our YouTube channel, Facebook page, as well as our cable channel as well. People can also subscribe to your newsletter and others to get all the updates on what's going on in the county. We encourage you to do so. And Chairman, we'll see you, if not before then, Tuesday night for the board meeting, and then back here for another taping.
It's going to be a long meeting, so bring a cushion and be comfortable.
Yep. Thank you.